Welcome to the Pet Loss Journals podcast. I am your host Louise. This podcast is all about the reality and impact pet loss has on our lives, and I will be discussing my personal journey through pet loss. So if you are struggling on your own pet loss journey, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, and welcome to episode 1. My name is Louise, and I will be your host for this podcast, the Pet Loss Journals. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my journey, first of all, so that you all know a little bit about myself. And really, it all stems back to 22nd of October 2019. And that is the day that my gorgeous spaniel cross, Ozzy, died. And it's a heavy subject. Pet loss is a difficult, heavy subject. And to be honest, I wanted to create this podcast to spread awareness and to highlight something that is just not spoken about. It's not spoken about in public, it's not spoken about with family, friends. There's judgment behind it, and there is so much shame for some particular reason. So in October 2019, I came home on my lunch break and found my gorgeous Ozzy dead in the back garden, and this was absolutely devastating and life-shattering for me. And unfortunately, 24 hours later, my Staffy cross also died, so she had to be put to sleep. The circumstances surrounding how they died is really just a terrible accident. And I don't believe that going into the specific details is very helpful for a lot of people, because it can be quite triggering. And I'm saying that with love from my heart. But all that matters here are my feelings surrounding what happened about the death of my dogs, and how it affected me and impacted me, and how it changed my whole existence and whole reality. Why I named this podcast the Pet Loss Journals, you may be wondering. And it really came to me because it resonated with me, more so because I started journaling. I started journaling like crazy after they passed away. I found that getting my feelings out on paper was something that needed to happen, that was really helpful for me during the depths of my grief. I was suffering with a lot of anxiety and post-traumatic stress. And just my whole world had changed. I was struggling immensely, beyond words. It can't be explained. So journaling was something that I turned to. Also, I did seek out therapy, and that also helped. It's an emotional subject, and yes, I may get emotional during this podcast or during episodes, but I think sharing my experience, sharing what I went through, is what I really want to do, and the aim of this podcast, so that you, the listener, do not feel completely and utterly alone in your grief. Pet loss grief is real. Your feelings around it are totally valid. Those are things that I have learned, and I did not believe those things back in 2019 when this happened to me. So I went month after month suppressing a lot of my feelings, and that was not helpful. I thought if I, in inverted commas, kept busy, if I kept busy enough, my grief would just disappear. But unfortunately, it got worse. It did not disappear. I suppressed these feelings. One of the main things that I did pretty soon after they died was I exercised excessively, really, really excessively. And I just want to mention something. 4 weeks before both of my dogs died, tragically, my 6-year relationship ended with my boyfriend at the time. And those 4 weeks that I had with my dogs, I was alone in a house and I had them, and they were absolutely unbelievable comfort to have. Going through a breakup after being together for so long was so difficult, and they were such a huge comfort. And then all of a sudden, they also disappeared from my life. Gone. I was living in a house on my own. So the excessive exercise was something that I did because I did not want to be alone in my house. And I think that is fairly normal and understandable. The house was completely and utterly empty. I did not want to be alone in that house, so I would go to work, come home, and walk for hours. 10, 15 kilometres, walk until it was time that I literally had to go to bed. This went on for weeks and months, and this is how I apparently dealt with my grief, which was completely unhealthy now that I see, looking back. My health suffered, my mental health was suffering. It was devastating. The Pet Loss Journals, the name came to me because I used to write in a lot of journal entries day after day. Just a brain kind of vomit, as I would call it. I know, a little bit unusual, but getting everything out that was in my head onto paper. And there's a lot of journal entries there, months and months, even a couple of years. And I still journal. So my aim is to share. In each episode, I will share a journal entry from the time that I was grieving the death of my dogs. And I want to do that. I know it's really personal, but I want to do that because I want to highlight that the reality of pet loss is intensely painful. It is absolutely devastating. So devastating that it's really hard to describe. And when I look back at the journal entries, they're really raw and they're really expressive and emotional. And a lot of listeners will be able to relate and may feel less alone that, well, Louise felt like this. I mustn't be crazy. I mustn't be going mad. My pet was not just a pet to me. My pet was my family. I want people to feel that their feelings are validated. I was validating my feelings in the form of writing, and I hope that sharing these journal entries will really help somebody. And I know it's personal, but it's something that I've wanted to do for so long, and I'm so glad that I will be able to share that with you. Before I share my first journal entry for this first episode, I want to let everybody know that after grieving and struggling for several years after the death of my dogs, I eventually stumbled across a website called the Grief Recovery Institute. And I decided to sign up for this program, this certification program, because I said to myself, I don't want others to go through this alone. I would love to be able to help people through this painful time of pet loss. Because I was Googling for specific pet loss support and specific pet loss help in my home country of Ireland, and I could not find it. Therapy is amazing. I just really was looking for something a little bit more specific. And when I found this wonderful, wonderful organisation, this company, and I completed the training, part of that training was to work on your own losses. Some major losses that I experienced in my life. And I worked on both of my dogs, and I worked on some relationships that are toxic, that have been difficult for me. You can work on human loss, animal loss, loss of health, anything. And I found it to be absolutely incredible. The amount of healing that I received from doing that training and all of the grief work that I did was just beyond explanation. It was incredible. I knew that I needed to help others, and then specifically help others with pet loss. I fully trained in the summer of 2022. I am a fully certified grief recovery specialist, and I've decided to branch out and specialise in helping people through pet loss. I absolutely love what I do. I love helping people in the form of groups online and individually online, from everywhere, from different parts of the world, and it's just been absolutely incredible. I was inspired by doing my own grief recovery work to help others. That being said, I would love to now share my very first journal entry with you all, which I'm so happy about. So this is journal entry from the 25th of October 2019. I spent 10 minutes walking around the house in the dark this morning, crying. It's very morbid here, but I am back in bed now. Didn't sleep great. I'm missing them terribly. I feel like I don't have a purpose now. So that was my journal entry. A couple of days after, they both passed away. It's emotional to read it back, and it just reminds me of the pain, the impact that they had on my life. And really, when I said in the journal entry that I don't have a purpose now, I genuinely felt that way. I have no children. Those two dogs were essentially my children. My world revolved around them. Everything I did, everywhere I went, I made sure that they were okay, looked after, cared for. I was responsible for two living beings, and they were depending on me. But the unconditional love was just unbelievable. Like, the relationships that I had, they're two very different relationships, but two very meaningful, absolutely incredible relationships that I had with both dogs. Of course, I would think that I did not have a purpose. I was completely alone. I did hiking with them. I would go to the beach. They got me outside, exercise. I just loved making them the happiest dogs that they could be. And how has my life changed now? Well, first of all, I have found a new purpose, which is helping others through pet loss. I thought that my purpose would be, I didn't know what it was going to be. I had no idea. And this podcast is all about me being real and authentic, and that I can just say whatever's on my mind. And it took me a while. It took me several years to find my purpose. But I really do believe that helping people through this pain and connecting with them and helping them connect with other people who have gone through something similar, not the same, because none of us understand exactly how the other feels. But if we have gone through something similar that we can relate to, that helps us on our healing journey. When I read out the journal entries, I really want to focus on some hope and what has changed for me in my life, because I want you guys to know that even though you may believe at the minute, if you are currently going through pet loss, that my life will never be the same, how am I going to pick myself up and get on with things? And my life is completely changed. How am I going to navigate it? How am I going to learn how to live without my pets in my life? And by me describing how I've come through, and I will be doing that in more detail as the episodes go on. This is really just an introductory episode to let you all know a little bit about me and my journey. And I want to bring the hope out of these journal entries and show you that experiencing joy in life again is possible, even though we have gone through a major loss of our absolutely gorgeous, beloved pets. Be that a dog, be that a cat, be that a rabbit, be that a horse. I can go on and on. It does not matter what kind of companion animal you have had in your life. It does not matter. We all form deep, meaningful connections and bonds with the animals in our life, and we live with them. We live with them in our houses. I mean, we're spending so much quality time with them. They know us, we know them. They make us laugh, and when we're crying, they come and comfort us, and they're concerned. Wow, I mean, there's so much to talk about in relationships with our pets. Absolutely incredible amount. I hope that sharing my journal entry today has helped you in some small way to see that what you may be going through is normal and natural. Because these emotional responses that we're having are completely normal and natural, because we are grieving. We do grieve the death of our pets. We do. And society may not understand, and society may not agree with us or support us or comfort us when we really need it. Maybe we don't get that support from friends and family. And maybe we do have a few close friends that can empathise and that can be compassionate towards us. But at the end of the day, there is very little space in society for people that are grieving pets. I want to create that space here. I really, really do. Non-judgmental space. That's really important to me. Being vulnerable is powerful. That's what I found. the more vulnerable that I have been, and I share my story within my pet loss support group programs, and these programs are educational based, but I am sharing my story, sharing my experience, my tips, my advice, everything that has helped me get through the other side of grief and recover. The words grief and recovery are rarely put together. People raise their eyebrows like, what? Sure, we have to live with grief. People don't recover from grief, Louise. And I said, well, I did. I mean, are you saying that I didn't? I think I know my healing journey and how I've been feeling and how far I've come. But yes, people can recover from major loss events in their life. But suppressing it and keeping busy, in inverted commas, as I spoke about earlier, this is what keeps us stuck, and this is what keeps unresolved grief stuck in our body. And if we do not look at it and process it and learn all the skills and tools that we need to learn in order to heal and be in a place to maybe eventually bring a new pet into our lives, and maybe not, that is perfectly fine too. Healing is individual, grief is individual, and grief is experienced 100% your own way. Nobody can tell you you should be at this stage or that stage, or there aren't any stages of grief. But I'll get into that in another episode, so I will save that. So, thank you for giving me this time to share my personal story. I will be sharing more as the weeks go on, and I will be sharing more journal entries that hopefully you can connect with in some particular way. I will speak to you again soon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this week's episode. Remember, your pet loss grief is real, and it is so valid. Please be gentle on yourself. Until next time, take care.